It wasn't a joke. It was the start of a war. And I won.
My fiance's friends made a joke about her having a backup boyfriend if things didn't work out with me. I laughed, walked straight over to the guy, handed him the engagement ring, and told him to take over. The room went completely silent. I'm Jake, 32 years old, and I was engaged to Sarah, who's 29. We'd been dating for 4 years and sharing my place for about 18 months. Just my name on the rental agreement. Got engaged 6 months back. The ring was kind of our inside joke. We found it at some craft market when we were traveling upstate. Simple hammered silver band with a single clear fake diamond. Totally handmade and gorgeous, but obviously not expensive. Exactly $100. Sarah went crazy for it, saying it was perfect for us and represented who we were. She didn't want some overpriced conflict diamond, she said. She made me promise we'd upgrade to something real when we hit our 5-year anniversary. I thought it showed she was down to earth and practical. I thought it meant she wasn't materialistic. Turns out, I was completely wrong about that. Spoiler alert, I'm an idiot. So last night we threw our official engagement celebration. Small gathering, maybe 15 friends squeezed into my apartment. Something felt weird from the start. The whole vibe was off. Sarah was all happy and glowing, but whenever I got close, she'd find an excuse to move somewhere else. Literally every time I approached her, she'd suddenly need to check on drinks or talk to someone else. She kept whispering with her girlfriends, Nicole and Ashley, giggling about something. Tyler, her old college buddy who she'd been hanging out with constantly lately, for emotional support, was basically glued to her side all night. I'd mentioned it before, asked why they were spending so much time together, and got the usual response that I was being paranoid. She'd say he was like her brother. Would I ever, she'd say. He's like my brother. We started opening presents. Got a nice blender. Got some towels. Normal engagement gift stuff. Then, Nicole, who was 3 or 4 glasses of champagne deep, stood up to give a toast. She raised her glass and slurred something about congratulating us both. To Sarah and Jake, she said, holding her glass way up. Everyone clapped and cheered. Then she went on about how Sarah was the smartest woman she knew. More cheering from the group. She said Sarah had everything figured out. Great career, great boyfriend, and she winked at me. I smiled back, thinking, this was sweet. Then Nicole said Sarah was so clever, she even had a backup plan. Right, Tyler? The whole room did this collective sharp breath thing. It was that awkward, sharp inhale of 15 people happening at once. I looked at Sarah. Her face was bright red, but she wasn't looking my direction. She was looking at Tyler, and she was smiling. This coy, pleased little smile. Tyler, the absolute idiot, smirked and raised his glass toward her with some inside joke nickname. Always Sarah Bean, he said. Nicole kept going, totally oblivious to the bomb she just dropped. She laughed and said she always told Sarah that if I ever messed up or screwed things up, she had Tyler waiting on the bench ready to go. Our little joke, she called it, still laughing. My stomach dropped like someone cut the floor out from under me. It was like everything went quiet except for this high-pitched ringing in my ears. All the weird stuff from the past 6 months suddenly lined up in a perfect, mocking parade. The late nights she claimed were with her girlfriends, but her location, which we shared, showed her across town near Tyler's neighborhood. The constant texting where she'd flip her screen face down the second I walked in the room. The brother lunches that somehow took 3 hours. How she'd completely stopped talking about wedding venues or planning anything. It all made perfect sense now. Everyone was staring at me, waiting to see how I'd react to the joke. So I gave them a reaction. I laughed out loud, real, genuine-sounding laugh. I told Nicole that was brilliant, honestly brilliant. I stood up and said, that was actually genius thinking on Sarah's part. Having a contingency plan showed smart risk management. You always have to have a plan B, I said. Sarah's smile disappeared completely, and her eyes got narrow. She started to ask what I was doing, but I cut her off. No, seriously, I said, holding my hands up. I walked to where I'd hung my jacket earlier and pulled out the little velvet ring box from the inside pocket. I'd taken it off her finger earlier to polish it before people arrived. Wanted it to look nice for the party. I walked across the room, right past Sarah without even looking at her, and stopped right in front of Tyler. He was still half smirking, looking confused about where this was going. I held out the box. He just stared at it like he couldn't process what was happening. I told him to tag in, buddy. My voice was totally calm and level. "She's all yours," I said. I didn't just hand it over, though. I took his limp hand, opened his fingers, and dropped the box right into his palm. I didn't just drop the box. I opened his hand and put it there, so he couldn't pretend it didn't happen. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. Dead silence. Nicole's mouth was hanging wide open. Sarah's face went from red to this sickly pale white color. I turned to face the whole room and told everyone the party was over. "Thanks for coming," I said, projecting my voice. "Please get out." Sarah finally found her voice and screamed my name at the top of her lungs, asking what I was doing. "It was a joke," she yelled. "A stupid joke." I looked right at her and asked if it was a joke when she was at his apartment last Tuesday. Or the weekend I went to visit my parents, and she said she had to work. Her mouth snapped shut instantly. I saw Tyler's eyes go wide. Oh, snap. He didn't know I was aware of that. Maybe he didn't even know she'd been lying to him, too, about where she was supposed to be. Who cares, honestly? "Everyone out now," I said, moving to the door and holding it open wide. People scrambled to grab their coats and shoes, nobody making eye contact with me or each other. It was like a bomb had gone off. Nicole and Ashley tried getting a sobbing Sarah toward the door, but she was fighting them, resisting. She yelled that she wasn't leaving. This was her home. I couldn't do this to her. I told her flat out it was my apartment. My name on the lease, not hers. Her friends, and especially the backup needed to go. Tyler, to his credit, looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else on earth. He put the ring box on a side table and practically ran out the door. Sarah and her friends were last. Nicole called me a monster as she walked past. Ashley said I was being hysterical over nothing. Sarah just stood there with tears streaming down her face, asking if I was really throwing away 4 years over a joke. I told her no. I wasn't throwing anything away. I was saving myself from a lifetime of being someone's first choice while they're auditioning their backup. Now get out. She finally left. I shut the door hard, locked the deadbolt, and put the chain on. That was 2 hours ago. My phone has been vibrating off the table non-stop. A mix of texts from her group, and even her mother, Patricia, who must have gotten some twisted version where I'm the psycho villain. Haven't read any of them yet. I'm sitting in my living room, surrounded by half-eaten snacks and discarded gift bags everywhere, holding that ring box. Best $100 I ever wasted. 3 days later, the pounding started. About 10 minutes after I locked the door that night. It was Sarah, Tyler, who apparently came back, and Nicole outside my door, yelling at the top of their lungs. Sarah screaming that I was being insane and that I'd embarrassed her in front of everyone. Nicole yelling that they weren't leaving until I talked to her, called me a controlling jerk. Tyler yelling, "Dude, just come out. We can talk about this. You're making her cry." I just sat on my couch. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and started a new video game. After about 20 minutes of them screaming and banging on my door, I took the headphones off and called the police non-emergency line. I reported a group of intoxicated individuals I'd just kicked out of a party who were refusing to leave my property and were causing a disturbance. I put the phone on speaker and turned the volume way up. The dispatcher's voice asking, "Sir, are you in immediate danger?" was loud enough to be heard clearly through the door. The pounding stopped immediately. I heard panicked whispering. "He's calling the cops. Oh my God, let's go. Sarah, come on, he's actually crazy." By the time I saw the patrol car's lights flash through my window a few minutes later, they were completely gone. My phone was an absolute nuclear core of notifications. I finally forced myself to read them the next morning. It was a masterclass in manipulation and gaslighting. Sarah had sent over 80 texts and called 15 times. How could you do that to me in front of everyone? It was a joke, just a stupid joke. You have serious trust issues. You need help. Fine, I'm at Tyler's now. Are you happy? You drove me straight to him. You're throwing away 4 years of memories over nothing. My mom is horrified and disgusted. She can't believe you'd be so cruel to someone you supposedly loved. I'm coming to get my stuff tomorrow, and we are going to talk about this like adults. You didn't even let me explain my side. Tyler is just a friend, always has been. You twisted everything in your head. You're a psycho, plain and simple. Nicole sent messages saying Sarah was completely destroyed and loved me. I was a monster for humiliating her. She hoped I was happy being alone forever. I was an insecure weirdo with problems. Ashley sent similar stuff. Even Tyler messaged me saying, I really overreacted over a harmless joke. I'd humiliated Sarah for absolutely no reason. Not cool at all, he said. My response was simple and methodical. I blocked all of them. Sarah, Tyler, Nicole, Ashley, everyone. Even Sarah's mother, Patricia, who had sent me a text saying Sarah was a good girl and whatever I thought happened was wrong. I needed to call her immediately. 8 in the morning sharp, I had a locksmith at my door. New high-security deadbolt, new lock on the door handle. Cost me $280, worth every single cent. Then, I spent the entire day yesterday packing everything of hers. Every single thing she owned. Every tube of lipstick, every pair of shoes. All her clothes, all her toiletries. I was methodical and systematic about it. Found things I'd bought for her as presents over the years. Found little love notes I'd written and hidden for her to find. That part sucked, honestly. Not gonna lie, I had a moment. I sat on the floor of the closet for about 10 minutes and just felt completely empty. 4 years gone, just like that. But the anger came back pretty quick when I found a little framed photo of her and Tyler from college, sitting on her desk. I packed that too. The furniture situation was more complicated. She had 3 main pieces. A big antique-style vanity her aunt gave her as a gift, a bookshelf she'd brought from her old place, and a $700 ergonomic desk chair she needed for her work-from-home setup. I'd paid for that chair on my credit card 6 months ago, when she said she desperately needed it for her back. She swore up and down she'd pay me back in installments. She's paid exactly $0. Around 4 in the afternoon yesterday, the pounding started again. I looked through the peephole. Sarah, alone this time, looking absolutely furious. I opened the door but kept the chain on. She immediately shoved at the door, demanding I let her in. She said her key didn't work anymore. I told her I knew. I'd changed the locks that morning. She absolutely lost it. You what? You can't do that. This is my home too. I have rights here. I said, no, Sarah, it's my apartment. My lease. You're not on it. You were a guest. You're not welcome anymore. A guest? She nearly screamed. I've lived here for 2 years. You can't just evict me like this. It's illegal. I said I could and I did. We're broken up. Done. She said I couldn't break up with her over a joke. She was getting her stuff right now. I told her I'd already packed all her personal belongings. Everything was in boxes by the door. She could schedule a time to come pick them up. You packed my stuff? She looked like her head might explode. You went through my things? You're unbelievable. Open this door right now. I said no. You can schedule a pickup time. You'll have 30 minutes. You can take what's in the entryway. That's it. Her face went purple. What about my furniture? My vanity that my aunt gave me? My chair that I need for work? I said the vanity was hers. It was a gift from her family. The bookshelf was hers too. The chair, though? I paused deliberately. The chair I paid $700 for on my credit card. You agreed to pay me back. You haven't paid a single cent. You pay me the $700, you can have the chair. Her jaw literally hit the floor. That's extortion. You're stealing from me. That's my work chair. I need it for my job. I can't work without it. I said, then you should have paid for it when you said you would, or not had a backup fiancé waiting in the wings. Her face twisted. I'll call the cops right now. I'll tell them you're stealing my property and illegally evicted me. I said, please do. I'd absolutely love to show them the lease with only my name on it and the credit card statement for the chair. I'd love to explain to them how your little joke got you kicked out. Go ahead. I'll wait right here. She stared at me for a long moment. The tears started, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. You will regret this, Liam. You have absolutely no idea what's coming. She stormed off, already dialing her phone before she even got down the hallway. So that's where I was. 14 boxes of her stuff stacked in my entryway. waiting for the police to show up for a bogus theft report. Also, half expecting a brick through my window, honestly. This was a total nightmare. But weirdly, I felt lighter somehow, calmer. The anxiety that had been building in my chest for months was completely gone. It was just clarity now, and a $700 chair that was actually really comfortable to sit in. 2 weeks went by. Sarah made good on her threat. 2 days after that confrontation, 2 police officers knocked on my door. I saw them coming through the peephole, so I was ready with everything I needed. Sarah and Tyler were waiting by their car at the curb like some victim and hero duo from a movie. I opened the door. The older officer, who looked exhausted and too old for this, asked about a domestic dispute call from a Ms. Sarah. I explained calmly there was no dispute happening. My ex-fiancée was outside. I'd broken up with her about a week ago, and she'd been asked to leave the property. Sarah immediately yelled from behind them that I locked her out, that I stole her stuff, that I was keeping her expensive $700 work chair. The officer did this deep sigh like he was too old for relationship drama. The younger officer said, "Sir, you understand that if she's a legal resident, you can't just lock her out like this. That's an illegal eviction." I said, "I completely understood, officer, which is exactly why I have my lease agreement right here." I handed him the printed lease. My name is the only one on it, see? Her driver's license, her bills, everything goes to her parents' house address. She never legally resided here. She was my girlfriend. She was my guest. The officers looked at each other and then back at the lease. The older one said, "Okay, but she clearly has property inside the apartment." I said, "Yes, she does. 14 boxes of it right here in the entryway." I gestured behind me so they could see. I've repeatedly offered to let her schedule a time to come pick it up. She refused every time and demanded full, unrestricted access to the apartment, which I am not comfortable with given the circumstances. Sarah screamed that I was lying, that I was keeping her work chair hostage. "It's worth $700, and I need it for my job," she yelled. The officer asked me about this chair. I said, "The chair is disputed property. I purchased it on my credit card." I handed him the printed credit card statement with the specific charge highlighted in yellow. She agreed to reimburse me and pay me back, and she never paid a single dollar. I told her she can have it the moment she pays me the $700 I'm owed. As far as I'm concerned, it's my chair until I'm reimbursed. The rest of her property, though, her clothes, her vanity, her bookshelf, is all right here. She can take it immediately. The cops looked at each other again with that look that says, they deal with this nonsense all day. The older one pressed his radio and said, "Dispatch, this is a civil matter, property dispute." He looked back at me. "Sir, we can't force you to give her the chair. That's for small claims court, if she wants to pursue it. But we can supervise a civil standby, so she can retrieve her undisputed property. Are you agreeable to that arrangement?" I said, "Absolutely, thank you, officers." The next 20 minutes were the most awkwardly silent, high-tension moments of my entire life. The 2 cops stood in my open doorway like sentries. I stood in the living room watching. Tyler and Sarah had to walk back and forth, trip by trip, carrying the 14 boxes out, the bookshelf, which had to be disassembled, and the vanity, which was heavy and awkward. Sarah was ugly crying the entire time. Full-on sobs, hiccups, gasping for air, the whole dramatic performance. Tyler just looked angry and kept shooting me these death glares. As he picked up the last box, he muttered under his breath just loud enough for everyone to hear that I was a real piece of work, and I should just give her the chair. I said loudly that he was welcome to Venmo me the $700 and take it himself. The backup can buy it if he wants. One of the officers, the older one, actually barked out a short laugh. Evan's face went bright red like a tomato. He grabbed the box and stormed out. Sarah stopped at the door and yelled that this wasn't over, that I was a thief, and this wasn't done. I said, "Okay, Sarah, have a good night." I closed the door calmly. The cops gave me a nod of respect and left. I really thought that was it. I genuinely believed it was over. I was so wrong. The entitlement just found a new, more dangerous path. Yesterday, I got a call from my landlord, David. He said, "Hey, Jake, weird question, but is everything okay over there?" I said, "Hey, David, yeah, why? Just went through a messy breakup, but it's all handled now." He said, "Well, I'm asking because I've gotten 3 anonymous calls to the management office in the last 24 hours, all from concerned tenants, supposedly. My blood went cold. I asked, concerned about what exactly? He said the first call was about constant screaming and arguments coming from my unit at all hours. The second was about a strange chemical smell coming from my vents that smelled like a chemical lab. And the call I just got, 10 minutes ago, was about suspected illegal activity and a lot of strange men coming and going at odd hours. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. David continued. Said, look, Jake, you've been a perfect tenant for 5 years. I know this is complete garbage. I know you. But you gotta understand, the corporate office absolutely freaks out about this kind of stuff. Suspicious activity is the magic phrase that makes them lose their minds. They've already told me I have to schedule a formal unit inspection for next week. And if I get one more call, they're going to push for an eviction notice, based on violation of the community safety clause in your lease. This wasn't just a smear campaign anymore. This was a direct attack on my home, my stability, my entire life. She was actively trying to get me evicted from my own apartment. David said he believed me. He really did. But his hands were completely tied. He had to do the inspection. And please, whatever this is, make it stop. I don't want to lose you as a tenant, but corporate will go over my head. I hung up, and for the first time through this whole ordeal, I was genuinely scared. This wasn't about a chair anymore. This was burn it all down tactics. She wanted to destroy my life. I'm not a rich guy, but I'm not stupid either. I immediately called a local lawyer's office and paid $350 for a 1-hour consultation and legal service. I explained absolutely everything to the lawyer. The backup joke at the party, the breakup, the police visit, which I'd gotten a copy of the report for, and now the harassment calls to my landlord. The lawyer was grim-faced and serious. She said this is classic vindictive ex-behavior, textbook case. Her advice was clear and direct. First, cease and desist letter. She would draft a formal cease and desist letter. It would be sent via certified mail, requiring signature to Sarah at her parents' house address, to Tyler, and to Nicole, whose addresses I unfortunately knew from previous visits. The letter would detail the entire incident, the false police report attempt, and the ongoing harassment campaign through anonymous, defamatory calls to my landlord. It would explicitly state that any further contact, whether direct or indirect, or any additional anonymous calls, would be treated as evidence in a forthcoming civil lawsuit for harassment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Second, landlord protection. I needed to send a formal written email to my landlord, David, and CC the corporate office. The email should summarize the breakup situation, clearly state that I am being targeted by a coordinated harassment campaign of false and defamatory reports by my ex-fiancé as retaliation for ending the relationship. I should attach a copy of the cease and desist letter to demonstrate I am handling this legally and professionally. This creates a paper trail protecting me and shows I'm taking it seriously. So that's my life now. I'm out $350 for a lawyer and $280 for a locksmith. That's $630. My landlord thinks my place might be a pills den, and I have a formal inspection scheduled next week. All because I wouldn't play along with a backup boyfriend joke. The absolute nerve of these people to be completely in the wrong and then try to systematically destroy my life as punishment for not letting them get away with it. I'm not even angry anymore. The anger burned out. I'm just cold now, calculating. This isn't a breakup. This is a war I didn't ask for. But I'm absolutely going to finish it. 2 months later, and it's finally over. Thank God. It's actually over. I'm sitting in my apartment right now. It's clean, it's quiet, and I passed the inspection with flying colors. David, my landlord, was super apologetic about the whole thing. Said he knew it was nonsense from the start. So here's how all the final dominoes fell. The cease and desist letters my lawyer sent were delivered via certified mail, requiring signatures. All 3 were signed for within 2 days. And just like that, immediately after, complete silence. The calls to my landlord stopped instantly. The concerned anonymous tenant completely evaporated into thin air. It's genuinely amazing what a letter with real lawyer letterhead and legal threats can do. The threat of an actual civil harassment lawsuit with real financial consequences made the whole group scatter like roaches when you turn on a light. My email to David with corporate CC'd, along with the attached cease and desist, also worked perfectly. Got a very polite, very formal email back from corporate saying they considered the false reports to be a closed matter and apologized for any inconvenience the inspection requirement caused. The inspection itself was nothing. Inspector came, looked around for 10 minutes, checked the vents, said everything looked great, and left. This next part I genuinely didn't see coming. About a week after the legal letters went out, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Tyler. Listen, I'm out. This whole thing is completely insane. Sarah is actually nuts." I just stared at the text for a minute. I didn't reply. About 10 minutes later, another text came through. "She's been staying with me at my place, and she's an absolute nightmare to live with. She wanted me to call your landlord again and tell them I personally witnessed you with a tool in your apartment. I'm not doing that. I'm not getting arrested for her and her revenge fantasies. I told her to get out. I'm done with all of this. Sorry for my part in everything." So, the backup plan completely folded the second it involved actual personal risk or legal consequences. He was perfectly happy being the smug, smirking side piece at the party, but he wasn't willing to be an accomplice to filing false police reports or committing actual crimes. The $100 ring was apparently too high a price to pay. He bailed the moment things got real. Life was quiet for almost a full month after that. I was just trying to heal and move forward. Then last night my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer it. "Hello?" "Liam, it's Patricia, Sarah's mom." My blood pressure instantly spiked. I said I was surprised to hear from her. She said yes, well, she knew things ended badly between us. She wasn't calling to rehash all of that. "Okay," I said cautiously. "What can I do for you?" She said, "Look, Sarah isn't doing well at all. She had to move back home with us. Tyler, well, he turned out not to be a nice person after all. She's just so upset and distraught about everything. She's trying to get her freelance work going again, but she's struggling." Patricia trailed off. I said absolutely nothing. Just waited. She continued that it was Sarah's back that was the real problem. "She's in so much pain. She can't sit at her desk for more than an hour without crying. That ergonomic chair I had, Sarah said it was the only chair that ever worked for her back problems." I almost laughed out loud. It was so pathetic. After absolutely everything, after trying to get me evicted through false reports, after trying to get me arrested on fake pills charges, the final play was to send her mother to guilt trip me over a chair. I said I was sorry to hear her back was hurting. That's unfortunate. Patricia said Sarah claimed I was just keeping it out of spite at this point. I said I was keeping it because I paid $700 for it on my credit card. Sarah agreed to reimburse me and pay me back. She never paid a single cent. I'm not running a charity here, and I'm definitely not giving a $700 gift to someone who tried to get me kicked out of my home through a coordinated harassment campaign. Another long sigh on her end, more frustrated this time. "Fine," she said shortly. "How much?" I said, $700. "That's ridiculous," she said. "It's a used chair now." I said, "That's the price." The price I paid. The exact price Sarah agreed to pay me back. Honestly, Patricia, I'm being generous. I should be charging interest and storage fees and emotional distress damages. Long, angry silence on her end. I could hear her breathing heavily. "Can I Venmo you?" she finally asked. I blinked in surprise. "Yes," I said. "Yes, you can. My Venmo username is at my handle. And you'll give her the chair after? You send me $700, I will put the chair on my front porch. You can send whoever you want to come get it. I don't want to see her." "Fine," Patricia said flatly and hung up. I swear, not 60 seconds later, a Venmo notification popped up on my phone. "Patricia paid you $700. The note just said, "For the chair." I immediately rolled the very comfortable, fully paid-for chair out onto my front porch. Texted Patricia that it was outside and available. I watched through my window. About an hour later, a beat-up sedan I didn't recognize pulled up to the curb. Sarah got out of the passenger side, ran up to the porch, grabbed the chair, shoved it awkwardly into the back seat, and the car sped off. She didn't even glance at my apartment or the windows, just grabbed it and left. So that's it. It's actually done. The group scattered because it stopped being fun and started having real consequences. The backup bailed because he's fundamentally a coward, and Sarah's back at her parents' place, minus her pride and dignity, but plus her ergonomic work chair that her mother paid for. I heard through a mutual friend, one who actually apologized to me for not speaking up at the party, that Nicole and Sarah aren't even friends anymore. Apparently, Sarah blamed Nicole for the entire situation, saying her stupid, drunken joke ruined her whole life. The complete lack of self-awareness is absolutely astounding. As for me, it cost me financially. I'm out $280 for the locksmith and $350 for the lawyer. That's $630 total. But I got $700 for the chair, so I'm actually net $70 ahead. But emotionally, it cost way more than that. It's hard to trust my own judgment now. 4 years together, and I never saw the entitlement, the manipulation, the backup plan, until it was staring me right in the face at an engagement party. But I'm good now. The apartment is mine and mine alone. It's quiet and peaceful. I'm not dating anyone, just enjoying the peace and stability. I'm not a hero. I'm not some badass who won. I'm just a regular guy who finally learned how to enforce a boundary and protect himself. Oh, and the $100 engagement ring? The box is in the trash where it belongs. I took the ring itself and dropped it in one of those donate-your-old jewelry bins at the mall. I hope it goes to someone who actually deserves it and will appreciate what it represents.